The chair recognizes Ms. Laurel Lee from Florida.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you holding this hearing, and I appreciate each of our witnesses for being here with us today to discuss this important topic. Since President Biden took office, one simple fact has become clearer and clearer every day. Border security is national security. This is an issue that affects each one of our communities. It is an issue that is endangering our neighborhoods, our families, and our children. In my own community, authorities in Polk County recently confiscated 11 pounds of fentanyl. Following this drug bust, our Attorney General announced that authorities had seized enough fentanyl in just a few months to kill every single Floridian. Our responsibility here is very serious, and I appreciate you all sharing your insights with us today. Sheriff, I'd like to begin with you and return to the subject of your staff, your resources, and the effect this is having on your operation. As a former prosecutor and judge in Florida, I understand the very broad set of responsibilities that our local sheriffs have that include investigating all types of matters, everything from bank robberies to murders, rapes, and things that are happening in the community. Can you tell us, please, how this border crisis is diverting the resources that you have and the deputies that you have away from the other important functions that you are tasked with serving in your community?
Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Lee. And I just wanted to comment real quick that just because they're American citizens doesn't mean they're not correlated with the cartels and doing their work. The cartels do that on purpose so we can sit in here and make it an immigration issue when it's really about human trafficking and drug trafficking into America. And those people that come here are being victimized. We end up paying the price on the resource level. I have to dedicate my helicopter. We had 10 events yesterday alone where we worked with Border Patrol. One a 911 call. The other 9 of them were groups of people trying to come into this country illegally in camouflage clothes, carpet shoes. I have my 4 canine units dedicated completely to interdiction, catching drugs and people on the way in and money and guns on the way back to Mexico. I have an anti-smuggling unit. We have Stone Garden units. These are all units that should be dedicated to my community to continue to protect them. However, because the federal government is not getting the job done on the border, and this is no knock on our troops, the Border Patrol, ICE, they're phenomenal. They do their job, but they've become babysitters because of the amount of people coming in. And then we end up picking up the slack, and it has a tremendous impact on our resources.
And one thing that I want to be sure we share with the public here today, as a prosecutor, I worked on cases that involved human trafficking, the trafficking of women and children. And I'd like for you to share with us what you're seeing in your community around this horror of human trafficking.
Absolutely. We see every day. We can go out. My guys are out working today. We'll probably stop 3, 4, 5 vehicles piled with people, sometimes up to 15 to 20 people in a single vehicle. That are being trafficked by the cartels, often being extorted because they couldn't pay the full amount at the border or being put into the sex trade. So yeah, these are the impacts that we're seeing, and we're seeing that number increase every day exponentially. And it's not okay as Americans to allow people to be put into the sex trade, whether it's women or children, and the cartel is doing it, and they're using American citizens to do it.
Thank you. Ms. Kiesling, I'd like to now take just a moment with you. As the mother of a school-aged child, I think it's very important that part of what we do today is share with parents your story. And if you would, what would you like to share with other parents, parents of school-aged children, about what happened to your sons and what you think our communities and our schools need to know about this crisis?
Starting with the problem with vaping in middle school, I went to the schools, and they're putting the drugs in vaping. It's not just nicotine, but they put things like Molly, all kinds of things go into the vaping, and these kids are getting it at a young age. That was their first addiction, and I did everything a parent should do. There weren't resources at the school. My friend, I mentioned her, my former law partner's husband's a sheriff deputy, he's a detective. He said when there's identity theft, they have a huge packet for everybody. They have stuff on the sheriff's website, everything you need to know how to restore your identity. There's nothing on fentanyl. There's nothing on Narcan. There's nothing that parents need to know. When I asked for resources, we had a sheriff deputy in the school every day. And again, this is top 5 school in the state of Michigan. And they said, well, there's a program you can take your kids to, the jail and have them visit, and that was it. I mean, there were no resources. I asked them for resources, for information for drug addiction. They had nothing. There was nothing for parents like me. And I tried. It's not for lack of trying. And my kids grew up. Their birth mother was a drug addict. She died 6 months after them. Their uncle died a month after them. He was actually doing fentanyl on purpose. My son had 5 times the amount of fentanyl in his system that was enough to kill. Again, this is not an overdose. This is poisoning. It's murder. It's homicide. Please use that language. Please don't say overdose. You need to have Narcan in your home. And the federal program that the state had for the money that they were getting from the federal government for rehab was not real rehab. It was just a flop house. We need real rehab.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing your story. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.